Thank you for joining us today. You are joining the top 10 dementia care do's and don'ts. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Paige Fairbanks-Gunn. I'm one of the regional directors for Koelsch communities. The majority of our communities are memory care communities. So this is I live in the world of dementia. Um, Pam and I have been working together for a long time, and we're super excited to have you join us today. We're going to be discussing what not to do from the very beginning until the end as a dementia care provider, things to do to help you provide the best care for your loved one and to take care of you as well. Also,
Absolutely.
answer your questions and talk about the struggles of knowing what to do and not to do with someone with dementia.
Exactly.
And
And yeah, so we have a lot to cover and we have tons of ideas and tips for you. So life should be pretty busy here. Just so you know, when you get my link on Friday with the recording, on that same page will be all of our do's and don'ts, all of our things to avoid and do's. So you don't have to worry about taking really good notes, but if something strikes you, absolutely, go ahead and take notes. I'm Pam Ostrowski. I am the founder of Alzheimer's Family Consulting. I spend time with people just like you every day on Zoom, walking through their biggest questions and concerns as they go through this years-long journey. I'm also the author of It's Not That Simple, Helping Families Navigate the Alzheimer's Journey. And a lot of the tips that are in there actually can be very helpful no matter where you are in the journey. So a couple of things, housekeeping things. These are webinars. It's more of a conversation of Paige and I and you talking about what your challenges are and what we've seen based on my 14 years of dementia care providing to my mom and to my dad later in his life. And so we're pretty casual. We don't have slides or anything like that because they're boring. And by the way, if you get my emails, which you probably do, we just want to make sure that you don't click on unsubscribe
Mhm.
because what that does is it affects the deliverability of our emails to other people who do want to subscribe. So just hit reply and say, Pam, take me off this list, and I'd be happy to do so. Our next webinar is Tuesday. We always do these on the fourth Tuesday, and it's at July 28th at the same time, 4 p.m. Pacific, and you do the math, 5, 6, and 7 for the rest of the time zones. So make sure that you add any, questions into the chat. And so to kick off this conversation of top 10 dementia care do's and don'ts, Paige and I were talking earlier, and we were talking about the word don't, because the challenge with the word don't is that your brain, when you use the word don't, your brain goes into a very complex process. And because of that, it processes the first thing that you say after don't. So if you say don't touch
Mhm.
the hot burner, what you hear as a human being, anybody, is touch the hot burner. Then your brain goes, okay, now the word was don't, and it's a contraction, which is also something difficult for the human brain to process. And so the bottom line here is we used it in our title, but we're actually during this webinar going to use the word avoid because that way your brain's like, oh, I have to avoid this. That makes sense. And I want you to use that tip with your person with dementia because
Mhm.
so frequently, and Paige, I'm sure you hear this all the time,
Yes.
don't do this. Don't draw on that. Don't play with your food. I mean, it's just we get so used to using the word don't. And what
Mhm.
you're doing is reinforcing, especially if someone has cognitive impairment, the first thing they're going to hear is to do that. And then you'll turn around and
Mhm.
get upset and say, what are you doing? I told you not to do that. And they're like, no, you didn't. I mean, so we have to think about how the brain functions as cognitive impairment progresses. So, Paige, are you ready for our first do-wop?
Yes. Do-op. And we're going to go back and forth. So, yeah,
Yes.
so the first one is creating a routine. So a routine is going to be best for you and your loved one. Structure brings comfort. Try to keep the schedule the same thing every day. The meals, the activities, the snacks, the sleep times consistent throughout the day. Because what happens is it's going to cause more confusion and more stress and anxiety for them if you do not have a structured routine. And we all know we have very busy lives, and routine can be thrown out and changed at any time. However, if you can set a routine, a structured routine, and try to stick with that, it will be really so much, it will lay a better foundation for you and your care partner. It really
Absolutely.
will.
Yeah, it does. And I work with I have a couple of clients right now that their spouses, and they're like, well, I need to do this and then I need to do that, and they're still working,
Mhm.
or they're very active in their community, and they're explaining that to their loved one with dementia, and that person's just like, what? And so just because your routine is different than theirs, they need to stay on a routine. So
Mhm.
that's the puzzle, and that's what we spend our time doing with most caregivers, is explaining to them, here's how you maintain your routine and their routine. So,
Right.
okay, my turn for a do. Okay, so
Nope.
mine is, do make sure that the person has daily stimulation. And that does not mean like a
Mhm.
crossword puzzle. It's activities that use their senses. So taste, trying out different flavors of things, put the spoon or, a fork and dip it into different things and say, what is that? It'll be like, that's good. Okay, that's good. So you're not doing it to get the right answer. You're doing it to get them engaged, because those senses are the most important thing to brain stimulation. So
Mhm.
touch, making sure that you have something that you have tactile, right? So dogs and cats are they're feeling their fur and everything is very reassuring. But also clothing, there's a lot of warm, fuzzy, soft blankets. So that's another thing. Smell, coffee. So, smelling coffee is just such a reassuring old memory. So, oranges and lemons, any of the citrus fruits are amazing. Spices, open up all the spices and have them sniff. All those things you would not think as being stimulation, but they are. And they're easy things to do, by the way. And then, of course, sight, keeping the
Mhm.
environment changing. So if someone ends up with in the same environment all the time, they're no longer stimulated visually, and that's a problem.
Mhm.
So, we want to make sure that they're not sitting in front of the TV, or they're not, staring at a piece of paper thinking, oh yeah, they're reading a book. Are they? Ask them, what did you learn on that page? Find out whether they're actually reading the book or whether their brain is just tuned out. So that's what I would say
Mhm.
is definitely daily stimulation. So Paige, we're going to switch over to the avoid side of things. What should our caregivers avoid doing as they work with their loved one?
Well, the top one for me is avoid arguing and trying to reason. Arguing with your loved one, you will never win. You will
True.
absolutely not win. And trying to reason with somebody that has dementia, I mean, in early stages, you get into all of that, but once the brain, gets to the point where, they're well into the stage, it will not work for you. Reasoning and trying to argue with them, it's more like you want to be like, let's try this or let's try that. Mom,
Exactly.
let's go for a walk instead of, going back to my house. Maybe if they were in an assisted living or, whatever the case may be, trying to avoid arguing and reasoning. And it will help you. Logic doesn't work. It won't. It leads to frustration, anxiety. It can cause agitation. So we want to try to avoid that. And at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares if they're not right and you are right? That's really what this is all about. It's how do we change our behavior? So
Right.
you go with the flow. Arguing you'll never win. I
Right.
sometimes do that with my husband, and he doesn't even have dementia.
Well, and it's true. I mean, you use the key word there, let's do
Yeah,
this, let's do that. And
yeah.
so many spouses complain to me, oh, it's a power struggle every day, and I then
Mhm.
ask them, I said, what conversation are you having with them? And it's like, well, I'm trying
Yes.
to involve him or her in what I'm doing that day. And then he's like, no, that's not true. Or she says, I don't know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
then you go into the, well, I told you yesterday, or I told you just now, or this morning. That
Oh.
Hear the angst and the anger and the frustration.
Mhm,
That
mhm.
is, there's just no win on that. And so I totally agree with you, Paige. Let's do this, let's do that. And we'll talk about this in a second, but the concept of reasoning,
Oh, yes.
reasoning with someone who has cognitive impairment and you trying to explain something to them why they're wrong is even worse, is a futile effort, and you're going to ruin the relationship in the process. So do you want
Oh,
to be
yeah.
happy or do you
Mhm.
want to be right? Okay. So my don't.
Okay.
Um, you ready, Paige? Okay. So
Yes.
avoid putting your loved one in a noisy, overwhelming environment. And the reason for that is if I know several of my clients try to take their loved one to a family birthday party or to an anniversary party or to some sort of event. And the problem with the that event is that it's noisy, it's lots of people.
Mhm.
The people don't necessarily know that your loved one has dementia. A lot of times people like to hold that close to the vest. And so they're like, "Hey, Bob, how are you doing?" Or "Susie, it's so good to see you." And everybody's doing that. And happy birthday, especially if it's their birthday.
Oh,
They don't know what a birthday is. So you want to give that one, you should have a caregiver with you, a professional caregiver,
oh, yeah.
or if you have a family member, explain to them you have to be on them like white on rice. Because if
Mhm.
they wander off, it's that person's responsibility to help them find the bathroom or find a quiet room where they can go, but don't leave them. And most family members can't be
Mhm.
trusted with that type of responsibility because they're there to have fun too, right? So if you hire a professional caregiver, that person will always accompany that your loved one. So that to me is the avoid putting your loved ones in a noisy, congested environment, including a restaurant, because they can't hear,
Mm.
they're frustrated, and they have difficulties. So, what do you think, Paige?
That's a tough one, Pam. I know. I always try to put the analogy of, okay, so imagine us, the ones that do not have dementia, and you're going Christmas shopping at Walmart on Christmas Eve.
That's a great
That
example.
that's like that would be the worst thing ever. So I always try to imagine myself if I were one of our residents that had dementia and was very well into the moderate to maybe late stage and taking
Even
them.
early, I think it
I
starts
know,
very
I
early on.
know.
They get agitated.
Oh yeah, that it causes in all stages.
Yes.
And especially you're right, Pam. I mean in some of the early stages too, because they're so fearful of the unknown and they're fearful of what's going on with them and they may not know what is going on. So, and maybe, they're going to a doctor, they're trying to figure things out, but again, it's kind of out of that routine and then avoiding, super crowded areas, super loud areas. That's why family get-togethers, like you said, and
Yeah.
being, with too many people and out of a
And
routine, it all goes together.
And it's funny because I've heard people say, "Oh, well, they know my daughter's house or they know my son's house." Do they? They used to.
They
But the
used to, and they may
assumption,
not now.
yeah, and
Mhm.
and they're like, they may say, I don't, there's nothing wrong with me." We hear that a lot, right? There's nothing
Oh,
wrong
yeah.
with me. I don't know what you're just being critical. And it's like, so you have to covertly manage this, which means talking to the people who will be attending, making sure that they have a quiet place, having a professional, and we call them companions. If you say the word caregiver to
Oh,
someone with dementia in the early stages, they have a
it's a
cow.
bad word.
It's a bad word, yeah. And
It is,
and then
unfortunately.
once they get to mid stages, they don't really care. As long as somebody's taking care of them, they're happy. Yeah. So, okay. Let's see. Where are we at? We're on
Okay.
to Jews,
The a
right?
Nadu, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Is it? Okay. So
That it so
you or me.
I'm up.
Okay.
So communication is in all sorts of different forms. We have our nonverbal, we have our verbal, but when we're verbally communicating with our loved ones with dementia, we need to be extremely cautious and choosy, I think, with our words.
Yes.
We need to use simple words, speak slowly and softly. And we need to make sure that we are maintaining eye contact with them. And if your loved one is sitting down, don't be standing up over them. Make sure that we are coming down. If your loved one is in a wheelchair, then you need to get on eye level with them and give them time to process. If you think about it this way, their brain is broken. So, what, and everyone is so fast. We're speaking fast. We're doing things so fast. I have to I have to watch myself slow down. And I'm like, okay, I have to slow down and speak calmly and softly so they can process because their processor is very delayed. And everybody's delaying process is a little bit different. So give them time to process.
That is awesome advice. I can remember when my mom was at Rock Creek, which is a Koelsch community in Surprise,
Mhm.
Arizona. And when I would listen to Stephanie talk to my mom, she
Yes.
would bend down and look at her and say, Loretta, we're going to go inside and, listen to some music. Does that sound like a good thing to do? And my mom would
Mhm.
nod her head or, it's ice cream time, but she always lowered her voice, spoke slowly and calmly. It's not, when you talk with somebody, and I know my clients do this, they're talking at the same speed. So, honey, what do you think? What are we going to do about that? And it's like, well, first of all, you're putting a problem in front of them they can't solve. And then secondly, you're just talking so fast. And inevitably, it's like, well, I just got a text from, the kids and they say da 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 da. And you have to, and you said this earlier and it was spot on, Paige, you've got to slow down. You've got to
Mhm.
go at their
Just
pace
slow down.
and you've got
Yeah.
to change your behavior or you will ruin the relationship. You will end up in an unhappy situation where your loved one, who's probably not going to remember that you were upset, and they're going to shut down and you're going to be
Yes.
upset and frustrated with them. And yeah, so perfect advice. Thank you for that.
It just, thank you, Pam. Thank you. It
So
just causes friction sometimes, it can.
it's that to me, that was the number one tip for all of my clients because I
Hmm.
know that they don't, and I get it. My mom had dementia for 14 years. I got to watch her change and evolve into a different person who had a lot less capacity. It's sad, it's hard. But if you try to treat them like they were 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, you will suffer for it. Absolutely. And
And
you're going to have to change. That's
right.
part
And
of the
Pam,
job.
even with your mom, I mean, you had to get to the point where you had to learn where even giving them steps. So like, brushing your teeth. It's
Mhm.
giving someone simple steps each time instead of, okay, take the cap off, get your toothbrush, take the cap off, put the all these steps, they're not following that. So you learned how to slow down and it's just step by step, because they can only process so many steps too.
Right. And not only one, they can process one because their short-term memory as it
It's,
decreases, they don't remember that there was a step two. And then
yep.
also if they become uncommunicative, which my mom was unable to speak for 8 years before she passed, then it becomes nonverbal. And I think you mentioned that when you were talking, is that, it's being able to stroke my mom's back or her hand or whatever and speak slowly. And she could process me speaking, but she couldn't respond. And that's got to
Right.
be really difficult. Okay, so the next
Really does.
do. If this is a busy, crowded area, it's kind of tied into the don't that I just talked about, the what to avoid. If you're in a crowded area, never leave them. Even if you think they're in a familiar place, they can wander off and now you've lost them and you can't find them. And, they could just be wandering around from room to room inside the house, even at somebody else's house that they used to know. So this is tough. Again, we've talked about this just now, but accepting that they're declining is the hardest thing you're going to do. And the sooner you do it, the better off both of you will be. So that's my dude, make sure that you stay with them no matter where you go, until you hand them off to another person. Definitely never leave them alone. So
That's right, Pam. I mean, safety, Pam, is ultimate.
yes,
That's the key. Safety
yeah,
is key
yeah,
because you
yeah,
never know when you turn your back
and
and
they're gone.
maybe they're carrying the cart, and for some reason they're holding it or something. You turn around to another aisle and go get something and they're gone.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Big
So,
panic. Okay, what's the next don't, Paige? Oh, sorry,
okay.
avoiding.
I'm sorry. Yes, avoiding. See, we're used to it too. See,
Oh
I know we
yeah,
can't
yeah,
sit the
it's a
no.
habit.
Yeah, it's the avoid. We want to avoid. Okay, this one's really hard. I have some friends that are dealing with this right now. And I mean, Pam, you and I have been in the business a long time, and now I'm dealing with it with my friends with their parents.
Yes.
And I'm helping coach them. And it is avoid taking things personally. Take it with a grain of salt. It is really hard to see. They may say something very inappropriate to you. They may say something that would really hurt your feelings. They may bring up things they may bring up something that is, I'm working with a daughter right now. She has dementia and she comes to one of our groups. And anyways, her mother brings up very negative, nasty things to her from her childhood.
Oh
Because
no.
she brings up, and it's not even like some of it, it's like when she was younger, but none of it's true. She just kind of makes up stories, but it's her brain. She's thinking these things. So,
Right.
there's also hallucinations that come into this, and there's also things that, she might be thinking of somebody else, but talking to her daughter like this. So do not
Right.
take things personally. It's very hard. It's easier said than done, but it's a very hurtful behavior and it is a symptom of the disease.
Right, right. And the other thing to keep in mind too is that every single person on this call, anybody who's listening to the recording, anybody who cares for someone who has dementia, your journey is going to be unique. So you might see your person might have Alzheimer's where they're just really struggle with doing tasks. And whereas someone with vascular dementia or Lewy body dementia might have behaviors, they might get angry, they might be paranoid, they might have hallucinations. So, and then you can have mixed dementias because just having one isn't bad enough. So you could end up with lots of that stuff going on. And so again, the sooner that you accept that this is your journey, the easier it's going to be because a lot of times I see spouses, especially, but children too, adult children, trying to reason with themselves and say, "Well, no, he knows what I'm talking about," and yeah,
Mhm.
it's not the case. So, okay, so my thing to avoid is because my dad used to
Mhm.
do this all the time. Avoid dropping them off while you park your car
Oh, yeah,
because
that's a good one.
and then what's worse is he would speak to my mother like it was 10 years ago. And when this was still when she was ambulatory, and he'd be like, "Okay, I'll meet you at the front door." What's a front door, right? So she would go in, she would get seated, My dad would be standing at the front of the restaurant looking, where did she go? Where'd she go? And then he would
Mhm.
worry that she left or she went to the wrong door. And, I would park my car. I'd come in and be like, what's wrong? And it's like, I don't know where she is. And I'm like, she's sitting right over there. I mean, my mother was always somebody who wanted to be seated immediately. I knew that about her. He did too. But for a moment there, his heart stopped, right? Because he felt like he had
Mhm.
lost her. So again, if you accept and plan for lack of a better word, the worst symptoms, you'll get the best result because you'll know to be ultra cautious and make sure that you have to have a handoff, a human to a human
Mhm.
handoff if you're going to go park the car. And there's no reason why you can't park by the curb, help your loved one out, go into the restaurant, talk to the maitre d'. Couldn't hurt to call them in advance and let them know what's happening, who's coming in, and then say, "This is
Mhm.
my wife," or "This is my mom or dad," and say, "Could you make sure that she stays put while I go park the car?" They'd be happy to do that. That's not a problem.
Yes.
So whatever you do, don't, avoid dropping them off and leaving them someplace where you think they're going to understand your instructions or directions. Paige, have you seen anything like that?
Oh yes, that one's a real tough one. It's leaving them and you know, oh yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where the safety concern becomes, I mean, this is where they'll drop them off at the doctor's appointment and then go park the car, or
Yes.
they'll leave them at a physical therapy appointment and then come back and get them after the therapist is done. And you
Yes.
can't do that because, you could do it in preparation if the clinic knows
Right.
and understands, but it's almost like you're handing your loved one over. That's their full responsibility if you're
It's tough.
gone, because
Yeah.
yeah, that's really tough. And so it becomes a very unsafe situation. Um, and I live in Arizona, so it is, I mean, it's
Hot.
114 tomorrow. It is bad. So we are very, very on high alert with, the heat and the weather, and we just have to be mindful of our surroundings. And especially too, there are bad people out there that take advantage of people. So we have to be very cautious of that as well.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
it's
Okay,
very,
so
very vulnerable.
yeah, exactly. So what's the next do on your list, Paige?
Mine is validate their feelings.
Oh,
Um,
so true.
yeah, validate their feelings. It's very real to them. I use an example of a lady that was in one of a community, and anyway, she was fearful of something outside of her window, and there was some hallucinations going on, and she really thought somebody was outside her window, outside her apartment suite. So we would take her, and we just walked her outside and let her know, what are you looking, what is it that you see? And then we just validated her feelings, let her know, it's okay, there's no one here right now, you're safe. And but you know what we're going to do is we're going to we put like a sheer thing over her window and removed something so that when she did get to look out, she felt safe. I think too, it's whatever's going on in their world and whatever's happening to them is extremely real. So we need to validate that. So if they are talking about their parent, or if they're talking about somebody, that is maybe not here anymore, we need to really validate that and try to just shift gears and either redirect if you can and say, you know, we want to say things like, I understand that you're upset and I understand this is frustrating, and try to help them that way. Because
Yeah.
if you can imagine if this was you and no one's listening to you in that moment, that would be fearful. It would be very
Yeah.
fearful. So
Yeah.
validating their feelings. Yeah.
So
What about you, Pam?
I usually focus on wording. And
Wording,
so
yes.
yeah, words matter. And so I've had spouses where the husband who has dementia says, "Oh, I wonder what Billy's doing," and it's like, Billy who? And it's like, "Oh, a guy we went to high school." And, it's like, well, Billy passed away. Well, first of all, nobody needs to
Oh,
relive
yeah.
that news. And then, and so instead say, what made you think of Billy? And the person might say, oh, I was just thinking about, how much fun we used to have or whatever. Then you say, yeah, we did really have a great time, didn't we? And don't say remember when, but
Right.
instead say, yeah, that's one of your pet peeves. Uh,
Right.
and mine too. But instead, excuse me, um, instead focus on the stories. Like you could say, I
Mhm.
remember when you first
Yes.
asked me out. So distract from Billy because you don't want to have that conversation about him being gone. And instead say, I remember you were so romantic. You did this and you did that. And he may chuckle because they usually remember things 10 to 50 years back much better than they
Mhm.
do anything that's happened more recently in the past few years. So use those kinds of words. And I understand completely that this is not an easy change because using different words, saying, I remember, or, you mentioned the word redirect. I usually say refocus, so
Refocus,
that,
yes.
because you're really focusing on something else. And
Refocusing,
but
yes.
it's still related because here's how it backfires on you. If you turn around and he says, I wonder how Billy's doing, and you say, what would you like for breakfast?
Oh, yeah.
They're going to react and say, what's that got to do with anything? I was talking about Billy. So you're
Right.
redirecting too far or refocusing too far away from the
Right.
topic that's in their head. So you have to be cognizant of that.
That's
Absolutely.
absolutely right. Yes, you are very right on that, Pam.
Okay.
And it all depends too on, what level they're in. And you know your person best on how, some of the things they do remember and what they don't. But it's a juggling act.
It is. And
It
rewording,
is.
there's no reason why you have to respond in a second. You can
No.
also take 5 or 10 seconds to say what's the best way to respond to this? And we have tons
Hmm.
of videos on how to do this. I have a bunch on my website, alzheimersfamilyconsulting.com. So you can either watch our replays or you can reach out to me or Paige, but it's really important for you to learn this new skill. And that's good for your brain anyway. Okay.
Pam, you have a good one. You have a good one that I wanted to bring up. Is you're really good about mimicking. So like if something is going
Show, don't
on,
tell.
yeah, or if they're saying, if they get onto something and you want to try to redirect them,
Hmm.
then you can always, I'm sorry, refocus them. Oftentimes, if they get stumped on a word or and they're getting embarrassed or something, if they look to you and start to and say, you know what, I can't remember that either. Or
Right.
let me think about that. You know what? I think you're right. Let me think about that. I just can't remember either. So, you
Make it
know,
okay to not be
make
able
it
to
okay.
remember.
Yes,
Yep. Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
We
Absolutely.
have a very
And
quiet group today. No one's asking
yeah, no
questions.
one's asking any chat questions or any
No
issues.
chat
So
questions, everybody? Okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so next one. This is also one I get a lot.
Okay.
Do
Avoid,
and no,
or you're on do.
I'm
Okay.
on do still, my dues. So do inspect the car for damage and go with
Oh,
them
yeah.
periodically while they drive. Now that may scare the
Yes.
heck out of you, in which case they shouldn't be driving. And
No.
that's a big deal, right? Is to do this gradually or you do it all of a sudden. But we've talked about this in the past, but it's really important to make sure that if they're still driving, because they won't stop driving because it's a big
Mhm.
argument. I have clients in that situation. Um, so instead, make sure that the car is okay. And then if it isn't, so my dad had this big black bump slash scratch on his car, on the bumper, rear bumper. And I said, what happened there? And he's like, oh, somebody hit me in the Target parking lot. I was like, Did they hit you, or was it the other way around? And
Mhm.
he's like, well, he said that I hit him, but that wasn't what happened. And that was my first time to take car away. And what I learned later was you don't, and we'll talk about this in a minute, you don't take the car away, you take the keys. And in this case, I said, I will come and pick you up and we go anywhere. So we'll talk about how to handle the car in a second. But definitely this is something you wouldn't normally do. So that's why I said do. Make sure that if they're driving still, that you do inspect the car frequently, just to make sure that it's okay. So, all right, Paige, are you ready? Do you have any examples with that or car damage?
We have a question. We've got some
Oh,
chat coming in.
oh, excellent.
Yay! Here we go. We got some
Oh, I
chats
know.
coming in.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So looks like Mark said is travel overseas unwise with mild cognitive impairment disease. We have had some issues with packing, using things and on domestic car trips. Okay. Well, my thought is bring a care companion. If you're going to go
Hmm.
somewhere, that way the stress isn't all on you because you will go crazy. Literally, there are so many logistics to traveling anywhere. To travel overseas, even worse, language barriers, driving on the wrong side of the road, depending on what part or opposite side of the road,
Out of
um,
routine.
out of routine, jet lag, all that is going to be very challenging. If I were in that situation, I would say no. But my caveat to that is if you're being a professional caregiver, someone who knows this person well, it's still going to be hugely stressful on them. They're going to be disoriented. They're going to wander. They're not going to know where the bathroom is. There's a lot of things that are very difficult. So it isn't even the easy stuff like packing and losing things. They're not going to remember any of that stuff. So they're certainly not going to, they're certainly going to have issues with traveling due to jet lag and so many other things. So what do you think, Paige? How would you address this?
It to me it sounds, if you've had issues with packing, losing things, and on, that right there, it to me that says that that's creating a lot more anxiety
And
for your
enjoyment.
loved one. Yep. And so when you pull out of that routine and there's so much coming in and so much change all at once, that is going to create more anxiety and unfamiliarity, of course, which is going to cause more confusion and more stress on your loved one. So, there that one's a tough one. It really is. I think a care companion is first and foremost the best advice. Um, it might be very expensive to do that on a cruise,
Depends
but it
on
would be
how long
worth
you're
it.
going. Yeah, because it's
Yeah,
24/7.
exactly. And I'm sure if you're, well, it doesn't
But I
overseas.
was
I
going
mean,
to
if
say
it's a cruise or
cruise.
something,
No,
yeah, it just says
overseas.
overseas, bring someone with you or a family member that is willing, that knows your loved one very well, that is willing to be with them one-on-one to help because there's going to be things that might come up that you're unaware of that could cause this person more anxiety.
Well, the
Yeah.
other thing is why are you going? So if you're going to have a good time and to create new memories, you need to
This may not be
reevaluate
good.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're going to be stressed about them and how off schedule they are. You're going to have your own jet lag, by the way. And then on top of that, you're always worried. So you're not going to sleep basically for however long this trip is. And,
Mhm.
and your loved one is going to be disoriented. So if you're trying to go there to create new or final, if you will, overseas memories, I think that, pardon the pun, ship has sailed. Um, so I would actually question why is it you want to do that? And if you
Mhm.
want to go, leave them with a family member and you go. If that's something that you have a loved one over there or whatever the reason is, you go. You don't have to take him or her with you. Okay, next question from
Johnny?
Johnny is how do we handle Zoom, behave yourself. How do we handle a call in the middle of the night asking where we're at? We don't even live there in the same city. Um, Middle call in the middle of the night. Okay, so
Probably
I
very
this is
disoriented.
well, so they're disoriented or they're not busy enough during the day to make them sleep through the night. Or maybe they need a sleep aid of some sort. Or
Hmm.
an anxiety medication, depending on that. Now that's last resort, in my opinion. But if they're not sleeping through the night, then they have other issues. The second thing is our favorite page. Why do they have a phone? If and it sounds to me like they're in memory care, because you said we don't even live there and live in the same city anymore. So we would need a bit
Yeah.
more details
Yeah.
there,
We
but
need
they
to know
shouldn't
if,
have a
yeah,
phone if they're in memory care.
yeah, if Johnny, if your loved one's in a memory care or an assisted living, it's time to it's time to remove the phone or at least have the staff pull it in at night. If they're at home, then, my concern there is if your loved one's at home, they should not be alone.
Right,
That's scary.
right. And they can
Because
also
then,
mistakenly call 911.
right.
So there's so many
Or your
things.
loved one, Johnny, is going to go out in the middle of the night looking for you.
Right,
Because they're so disoriented to time, place. That's where, yeah, they get very, very disoriented to time and place. So that would be concerning. Just really depends on, we need a little bit more information on where your loved one is actually located at the
right.
moment.
Okay,
Okay,
Paige,
we've
I'm
got
going to read
Tony.
Tony's and then you
Okay.
you respond next first. How do you control the amount of chaos that impacts the environment when the spouse or siblings, I read ahead, are in denial and doing most of the don'ts you have listed here and on other resources? No consistency saying, or remember, arguing, forcing them to recall. Tony, you go ahead.
Yeah.
What's that first one? And then she has another question.
Okay. How do you okay, so that one, okay, that's a, so
So the
Tony,
family
so
is contradicting they're doing all the don'ts.
right there,
And so
of
what do
course.
you do with that? I have a suggestion, but
Well,
first.
my suggestion would be is get them on one of these webinars first. Number two would be, we'll send them this recording. And number two would be, yes, they are in denial. Denial is very, very common. It is because, I mean, Pam and I live in the world of dementia. This is what we do all day. This is our careers. But for all of you, the viewers and the listeners here, you're not. So it's very hard. It's very hard. It's very, emotional. There's a lot going on. But it's all about education and trying to get more resources. So I would highly recommend, Tony, that you try to get your siblings into a support group and Pam's book.
Just send them
Exactly. Pam.
a book.
Yes.
Give,
They need Pam's book. Pam, you need to send them the link right in there
yeah,
to
I'll look at
start.
your next one. But the other thing is, for now, if you can, um, so you said the spouse or siblings are in denial. So you can't really, I was going to say limit the person's exposure to the people who are not on board yet. The other
Right.
thing is, if you can do that, that would be great. And the other thing is to educate them. But right now, or get a doctor's note that says this person has either cognitive impairment or early stage dementia, make copies of it and send it to everybody and say, hey. So it's kind of hard to tell, Tony,
Mhm.
where you are in this whole relationship thing as to what advice we
Right.
can give you that you actually can apply. So if you want, feel free to add more details about your situation. She has another one. Paige, did you want to read that one? The how to manage your carb?
Okay, so yeah, so that's how to manage a car companion when the one with the dementia has an elderly spouse that does not have the capacity to act as caregiver but has their own memory challenges.
That's familiar.
Okay. How do you manage the car companion?
Who's a
Okay,
car
that,
companion?
yeah,
I
who
mean,
are
that
they?
means
Yeah, that
there's
scares
somebody
me.
else. Yeah, I don't know what car companion
Is that like a
mean.
lift
I
or
would think it'd be a family member or a caregiver, a professional caregiver. When the one with the
hmm,
has an elderly spouse, yeah, doesn't have the capacity to act as a caregiver, but has their own memory challenges. I'll tell you where I would go. I'd tell them to go to assisted living at a Koelsch community or check one of them or both of them into memory care. Um,
Yeah.
because this
That's a
is a
tough one
problem.
because if yeah, that's scary to me. That's very scary to me because if they're not, if a car companion, depending on what it is, if that's a lift or somebody else or a family member, but
I
if
think
one
she
of them
meant
is
care companion.
okay,
That would
sorry,
make more
thank you.
sense. Yeah,
Sorry,
how
thank
do
you.
you
I'm
manage a
like
care
car. Okay.
companion? Yeah.
Care companion. Okay, got it. I'm sorry. I'm reading wrong. My
No,
brain
no, no,
process is a
no.
little different.
It's a typo. It's a typo.
Okay.
Um, so if you have a care companion,
Oh no, no,
you
you're
need
fine.
more.
You're fine, Tony. You did fine. She says, "You're fine. You're fine."
But then you need more than one care companion, or honestly, it'd be a lot cheaper to go for them both to go to memory care together and stay in the same room, which is what my parents did. Or assisted one can be to assisted living, and the other one can get memory care services.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of options with that.
And you could kidnap your mom and go underground, but I don't think your family would be happy about that. So, but yeah, Pam's book would be a great first start. Pam, you're going to put your link in there. I mean, that's a fantastic guide. It's complicated with families. We all love our family, but we can't get everybody all on board. Sometimes it's yeah, it takes a village,
Yes, oh,
unfortunately.
absolutely it
Yeah.
does. And
Yeah.
having these, if you want to talk to both of us or one of us at a time, having these conversations and kind of talking through the situation, because obviously we don't
Yes.
know all the details. And sorry, Tony, it took me a hot minute to scroll down to your
That
response
was
about
my fault
care.
too.
It's care
Me
companion.
too.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
we're trying not to miss some of the questions, right? So then Carissa has a question.
Yeah, Pam, you want to
Um,
go do that one?
yeah, so my siblings and I are aware that the time has come for mom to have a lot more care. Good for you that everybody realizes that. Should we
Correct.
divide time to care for her between us? I'm trying to get this Zoom emoji thing out of the way. With my brother, 4 months with my sister. No, that will totally disorient her. She would be, no. So you never want to move somebody frequently, and 4 months is
No.
frequently, right? So you get a
Yeah.
chance to move a person maybe twice if they're mid to late stages. If they're in early stages, usually they're not in memory care quite yet, they're in assisted living. And so in this case, you would never split it between the families. Either everybody
Right.
moves to where mom is, or one person keeps mom, and then the other, this is what I've seen, the siblings fly in, take over your home, take care of mom, and you leave. You go do you
Mhm.
someplace else.
Right.
So yeah, that please don't
That's
move
a
her.
recipe for disaster,
It really
unfortunately.
is. It
Yeah,
is.
it is. And it's very hard for families to try to piece together and band-aid services. But this is one of the things that's just going to make it worse, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
again, it's back to routine, consistency. They need stability
Yeah.
all around and moving them and back and forth. I mean, we have a lot of, Pam, when you were in Arizona, we get a lot of snowbirds in Arizona. So we get a lot of people that are here back and forth and back and forth. And we would start to see one spouse is fine, and then the other one that had dementia, the more they were going back and forth, the worse they got. And the more
Yeah.
problems and difficulties they had, and more anxiety and stress. And it's
And
not,
and it's sad because I remember, so my dad, they had a 2-bedroom apartment in memory care, and mom needed the next level, so she had to move out. But my dad would get so frustrated because he would be like, "You don't understand what's going on." So you got to approach all of this with care and
it's all
compassion
the
and,
approach.
and empathy, because your parents' hearts are breaking, right? Now, the one with dementia, it doesn't mean that they don't love the individual, but they're struggling right now and they're focused really internally. So they're not very empathetic. I have one client who's I have a lot of female spouses who has a husband who just, he's like, well, what is your problem? Why can't you just stay here and take care of me? Like, well, first of all, that would
Right.
not fly with me. But secondly, she's like, he's not that person. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. He is not. Why are you treating him that way? Why are you treating him like who he was before? Johnny said, how do you approach your parents
Oh, this is,
in with you
yeah, this one's a
when
hard
she feels
one.
she can still be on her own? This is really a popular one, by the way. She says she's not a baby, but she is getting bad. Okay,
Yeah,
so
mhm.
you want to
I
take that
can,
one, Paige? I'll let you go while I think.
I can take this one. I'll take this first and then, okay, Johnny, and okay, this one's a hard one, but what I suggest is that you find first and foremost, if you're looking at placing your loved one and you need to go down that road, you need to start looking. I would look at two, three max places. That's it. When you find a place and find a relationship, it doesn't matter how far they are, it's who you connect with in a community.
So true.
So finding the team, making sure it's the right fit for your mom without your mom knowing you're doing anything.
Do
Okay.
not
You're
bring
just
them with
doing
you.
right. You do not take your mom with you. Do not. You're just kind of doing behind the scenes, some
Research.
research and checking it out. And then what we could, what I do with families is this is so classic, is when you find a place that you like and you've had a relationship with that community, then the community, it's up to the community's expertise to come in and lightly come in and start, doing like a home visit. And we will give you suggestions. The community will give you suggestions on how to approach your mom, your parent. Um, there's all sorts of things that could be unraveled. Let me give you an example. I have a lady right now that is moving her dad from out of state to one of our communities. And she said, I don't know how my dad's going to understand this. How is he going to do this? How are you? I can't tell him that we're moving him. And I said, you're not going to tell him anything. I said, what we're going to do is we're going to do a home visit and we call this I call it loving therapy. I don't like to call it fibs anymore. Loving therapy. So I come in, we come in as a community, and we're not lying. We're coming in, and Medicare does they do home visits, they do safety visits. So we're coming into the home with the daughter, and we're from Medicare, and we're just doing a little, very informal home visit to make sure that dad's okay. And we know exactly what's going on in that 30-minute visit. And dad has no idea that we are even evaluating him. And then we debrief with the daughter afterwards. And there's a lot of logistics behind the scenes, and we figure out what the story is going to be. Now, the story, it's all custom. Everybody's story is different. And what that looks like, there's a lot of things. But I will tell you that when you find the right community, they are the experts to help walk you through this, and you will not have to be the bad person. Okay. There's lots of things that we can help you with, and you put the load on to the community, and we help you through this process, and it will be okay. There is a little bit, there's a hump, and everybody's hump and transition is different, but when you find the right people, it can be a smooth transition, but you let the community take the brunt of that, and we coach and guide you the whole way and
So,
help your loved one.
so she asked, how do you approach your parent to move in with you? So Johnny wants to know how to get the parent to move in with her. And I think it's a her, not sure, sorry. But what Paige is saying is that affects your quality of life. And I don't know if anybody is prepared to actually take care of someone with dementia. And I'll be very honest, they will come to a stage where they can't live with you. And
That's
it's
right.
dangerous for them to live with you. So we always say sooner is smarter, moving them so that they
Yes.
can integrate better. I will tell you, my experience is 60 to 90-day transition period. This is not going to be smooth sailing. There's going to be bumps, but if you're working with the community, it's an entirely different thing. But bringing your loved one into your own home and caring for them, that will inevitably, most likely, I know there are people out there who, took care of their mom or their dad, but 90% of the people need to go to a memory care community, simply because you want eyes on this person. And I just noticed
Right.
that that V was saying, my spouse suspected Alzheimer's, MCI, who I think is in early stages, still drives to two places that are familiar, who, right, yeah, that won't last long, but sits and watches TV all day and night at home. How do you know when it's time to get more care, whether in a home or a facility? So
Mm,
we would need more information. I'll tell you this. I mean, you need to
yeah.
understand, I need to understand, and so does Paige, more information about the worst thing he can do is watch TV and sit at home by
Yeah.
himself. So that to me is a cue to say he needs to go to an adult activity center
Mhm.
or go to
Mhm.
an adult
Yep.
program. I know Koelsch
Get
Communities
engagement.
has
Hmm.
the respite and things for people to do. So you need to get his brain stimulated, or this disease is going to accelerate really fast. So if you work outside the home, good for you. That maintains your sanity. Keep doing that. But if the very least, if you either need to get them out to activities or that type of thing, where
Hmm.
someone can come and pick them up that you trust, or bring in a professional caregiver who's dementia trained and ask specifically, what skills does this person have to keep my person stimulated? And if they don't know the answer to that, try someone else, because
Right.
I've had
That's not
caregivers
your person.
sit there and watch TV together. And I'm like, that is not going to help the situation. And, people say, oh, I feel like I'm throwing my money away. So,
Right.
okay, Carissa said, how do we know when to put her? Okay, so you want to take that one page because that's one of your favorites. How do you know when
Okay,
it's
which
time?
one? Oh,
So
how do you?
how do you know when it's time to put someone to, and we call them communities, facilities or meat
Mhm.
packing facilities. They're not people processing facilities. So
Yeah.
they're care
It's a
uh,
care community. It's a
communities.
community.
Yeah.
Hmm. So,
So go ahead.
okay, it says, okay, so read I'm looking at so much
It
here.
says,
I'm looking
how
at,
do we know when to put her in a home care facility or
oh,
have
here
her
we go.
in our home? Carissa DeVore. Yeah.
Okay, how do we know when to put her in
All of a sudden we've got
okay,
lots
a
of activity.
community or have her move to our home? Okay, that is there's a lot that we would need to know. But how do you know? Right there tells me if you're questioning us on this right now, that means you definitely need help. And that's good that you're here. How do you do it? Is going to be some conversations about the community that you connect with first and foremost, and how much she needs, and really getting to learn who your loved one is, so we can really identify how best to position how we're going to do that, because everybody is different. It isn't just you come in and okay, you sign up, we move them in. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of moving parts, and as a community, in Kelch communities, we everybody is so different, and we take every family member completely separate, and each person's move-in process and transition, it all looks differently. So we'd need to really talk about more what you're looking for, but we can help you with that. We'd be happy to talk to you on the phone, but it is all about connection, and finding out, if you got to find the right people that you feel comfortable with in a community, and moving your loved one home with you. That is, in my opinion, you can absolutely do that. I'm not saying that you can't, and people try it. And I understand that there's a lot of guilt involved, but it doesn't last forever. It becomes very complicated, very difficult. Most of the time by the people come, I see families that come to our door and they do have their loved one at home with them. And usually there's a marriage that's on the rocks. The adult daughter and the adult children are trying to work. There's a lot of problems that are happening. And so, this is why communities are open, because we understand the routine. We understand all of the avoidances and the do's and what to do. And this is what we live every day. We understand that this is new for you. And so we're the experts. So we can help you with all of that. I know that's a long answer, but again, we'd love to chat with you if you have any other questions, or depending on where you are in the country, we'd be happy. And I want to go back to Johnny. This is a hard one. Johnny, you said, I don't want to put my mom in a community. I know, I know. We don't ever want to do that. We don't ever want to do that. I know it's hard, but at the end of the day, a community that you find that you make a connection with will help guide you through this process. And I have seen such wonderful success stories in our communities. There is a bumpy road through the beginning, yes, there is. But when all's said and done, I mean, we have so many family members. I'm in a community right now, and I just saw a couple of the family members in the lobby. I'm in one of our memory care communities today. And just seeing them and knowing what we've all been through together to help them get their loved one, either their spouse or their parent in, it's pretty remarkable. So there's a lot of logistics and a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that goes on.
Well,
There
I
is.
know we're running over, but thank you guys for all
Sorry.
the chats. We
Sorry.
appreciate it. No, it's
I
not.
opened up the can of worms. Hey, everybody, put a
Yeah.
chat in, right?
Yeah,
This is
well,
good.
good. I mean, apparently
This is
that's what we
good.
need to do. So,
Yeah.
so one of the things that we have to realize, talking about accepting this person is on this journey in the first place, is the first one. And everybody else getting on board is probably the second one. The third one is realizing that you can't provide the right amount of care. No one's trained you.
Yeah.
You are not
Yep.
trained in dementia. You are not able to have 24/7 eyes on this individual. You may love them, but here's the thing, and I will say this because I've been through it. I have lived this. If you love your person, give them the best care possible. And that means having a community of people who have activities. And again, you're going to have to find the right community for you and for your loved one, but not for you so much, more their loved one. But they have eyes on, like the entire staff is trained on dementia care. They they understand what to do. They have activities, they have music, they have cooking of brownies, wonderful smells and types of things. But and if the place you go to doesn't have those things, move on. It's not you don't have to pick that one. But it's
No.
so important to realize you are not the best care possible. So I know
Right.
that's hard to hear, but it is the reality. And the sooner you come to that reality, the easier it's going to be for you. You are still going to probably feel guilty and feel out of sorts. We do have more videos. When you go to that last one that I put up there on behaviors that we did last month, on how to handle people who don't want to do something, like you had asked that too, get them out of V. You'd mentioned, how do you get them out to do something? Watch
Mhm.
that video. That's why I posted it in the chat twice. Because we talk about how do you get people to do what you want. The problem is we
Right.
address them in the words that work against us. We
Mhm.
say, hey, let's go to the activities. Well, if the activity place that you went to didn't work out for your dad and he's like, I never want to go back, you're not going back. You're going to try something new. Tell him it's an experiment to see, what's available out there, and work with the care community. You can always
Yep.
call the care community and say, I'm looking for whatever. If they, call the
Mhm.
Alzheimer's Association 800 number 24/7 and say, I need resources in my town.
Mhm.
What can you do for
Yep.
me? Free. Do it. I
Right.
don't, most
That's
people don't
right.
seem to know they have a free 800 number, but so Carissa said, please email contact information. I would love to schedule time with you to talk. Carissa and everybody else, you can scroll up in the chat and you will see my contact information, Pam, and it's not
Mhm.
that simple.com. And I've sent you 4 emails reminding you of this, and you will get
It's okay.
another email on Friday. So all you have to do is reply to that. For Paige,
Yeah.
if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see Paige's PFG. So Paige
I
Fairbanks-Gunn.
just I
You
just
put it
put
back
mine
in there
again
again?
in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there it is for
So,
you.
copy that and bring it over. If you get an email from me, a lot of times it's easier for us to um, go ahead and look up your name and then or
Mhm.
your email. If you can give us your email address, then we'll
Yeah.
reach out to you
Right.
because sometimes technology makes it more difficult and challenging, and you don't need that right now. You have enough on your plate.
You have
So,
enough. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
All
but
right.
yeah, we're
We're
very happy that you all joined and thank you for all being so, this was good. This was,
yeah, we appreciate your
hopefully this was
engagement.
helpful.
And it
Yeah.
makes it it makes it so much better when you participate. And again,
Yes.
we do this every month, the fourth Tuesday. So our
Mhm.
next one's July 28th. We usually talk offline and figure out what we want to talk about. If you have any recommendations or anything,
Yes.
go through the Learning Center on alzheimersfamily.com, see what that might stimulate. You just click on each topic and take a look at what's there, and you'll figure out what works and what doesn't work for answering your questions. So let us know what topics that we can cover in the future if you have something in particular. Okay, Paige, thank you so much. Appreciate you as a co-host, and really enjoyed this conversation with all of these good folks. And we're here for you. So
Well, thank you all for joining. You're all caregiver heroes. Just know you're doing the best you can and keep it up. And we're here to help you in any way. So reach out, and we hope to see you on our next one.
absolutely. And be sure to send this recording, forward it to all of your family members and siblings and
Yes.
everyone, because they'll learn what you've learned
Yes.
here. And spreading
Yep.
the word is really important, because people aren't doing it to be mean. They're doing it out of not knowing any better. So let's help everybody be smarter and more empathetic and kinder about the entire journey. So, all right, you
Yes.
guys, take care.